Yes, the giant does learn how to be Superman in a very literal sense, so it's a bit tough to argue the point, and I think you can make the case that the Iron Giant, despite very literal allusions to Superman, is actually more of a Spider-Man film, because the one thing the giant has to learn is responsibility. He is the one with the power that can save a town on the brink of destruction, so it is him and only him that can do anything about it. Though he's voiced by Groot, so I can't keep up with all superhero shit. And not only that, but he also struggles with his own identity. We are never explicitly told that he was created as a weapon, but we do watch him struggle against himself to not allow his destructive capabilities to be his purpose in the universe. It's easy to make a case that he was created as a weapon, but he chooses not to be that. You know, like Spider-Man.
Go, 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 go!
Welcome to Cordkillers. We are Superman. Our mission is to report the intel from the front lines of the cord-cutting revolution so that you have the information you need to be able to watch what you want, when you want, where you want, on whatever device you want. I'm Tom Merritt. Who are you?
Tom, didn't you even pay attention? The whole point Mikey Newman was making is that because he had the power and yet elected not to use it, that meant he decided not to be a weapon, which meant he was Spider-Man, not Superman. By the way,
but his literal catchphrase was "I am Superman."
Well, yes, but if Spider-Man's catchphrase was "I am Superman," would that make him Superman? No! But more importantly, we do want to give a huge plug to Mikey Newman. His series, Movies with Mikey, is some of the best cinematography, cinema talk, full stop. His analysis
We need someone who knows words.
Is amazing. In fact, you know what? Why don't we get somebody smarter than both of us put together when it comes to movies and bring him on the show right now?
Jeff Cannata, welcome to Cordkillers.
How long till we can talk about Game of Thrones?
You got about an hour, buddy. Hang in there.
Okay, I'll try to survive.
Seriously, man, you're going to want to check out Spoiler in Time. If you're a follower of us on Patreon, you'll get it right along with this episode. If not, it'll come out on Wednesday. We are going to go into that massive finale of Game of Thrones. But for this show, where we talk about the things you need to watch shows like Game of Thrones, we start with the primary target.
It's true. We do.
Not a lie. And one of the things that folks like us have been trying to figure out is like, all right, what of these over-the-top streaming services should I use to get my shows? Is it Sling TV? Is it PlayStation Vue? I have been leaning towards Sling TV. Neither one of them is perfect, but Sony announced that PlayStation Vue is now available on Roku devices. Dave Katzmeyer over at CNET says that the app offers a quick, simplified interface compared to the other platforms, so it's not as nice as the one on the PlayStation itself, not even as nice as the one on the Fire TV. Sony also announced that Vue Android app is coming next week. Brian, does this change anything, or were you leaning that way already in the Sling TV versus PlayStation Vue epic battle?
No. Well, okay. First of all, yes, it does change stuff in that I absolutely love as many different opportunities to get all the different content that we want from as many different vehicles as possible. And from what I understand, while it is a simplified interface, it does run very, very quickly, which is one of the benefits to it. Here's the funny part. I have been thinking of jumping from Sling TV over to PlayStation Vue for one reason, and it has nothing to do with the platforms. It has to do with the content. But as we were talking about this afternoon, turns out I'm still ineligible. I was thinking about jumping to the PlayStation Vue because Sling TV will never have USA, as best I can tell. The USA network is, of course, where I could see Mr. Robot coming back in, 2 weeks. So I was thinking about like, well, let me press pause on Sling TV, jump over to PlayStation Vue. The problem is that I can't watch it on my desktop. I have a PlayStation 4. I got all the, different devices that I could watch it on, but Mr. Robot is not the kind of show that I want to watch in the living room where my kids can hear it upstairs. And so as a result, I'd rather watch it in my office on my big screen desktop computer, but I don't think I'm going to make the jump, and it has nothing to do with the sources. Or, I almost made the jump for the content. I don't know. Jeff, do you do Sling TV or PlayStation Vue?
I don't. I'm actually kind of a hypocrite being on your show because I have not cut the cord. I am still on the teat of that Time Warner.
We need that outside perspective.
Well, okay, good. Thankfully, you guys didn't just kick me off.
We need that outside areola.
No, that's perfect for this conversation, though, because here we are, Brian and I like PlayStation Vue or Sling TV, and you're the one on the outside like, should I make the jump yet?
Right.
And we have both made that jump, and we're over here going, well, the water's okay. I don't know if I'd call it fine. And I'm
That's
like
the
you,
problem,
Brian.
right?
I've been sticking with Sling TV because I think Sling TV is more convenient in that I don't have to think about it. If I'm looking at it on my tablet or my laptop or the television, it's all the same channels. On the other hand, it's buggy still. I was having a big problem watching an episode of Preacher earlier today, and it doesn't have all the channels I want, though it's getting better all the time. PlayStation Vue, I have to think about. It's like, oh, well, I can watch PlayStation Vue on my tablet, which is how I watch a lot of my shows this way. But when I look at the PlayStation Vue app on the tablet, sometimes it says, oh, this channel's not authorized for mobile viewing. Sorry.
I'll be quite honest with you. When they announced PlayStation Vue, because I cover video games for a living, it was a big part of the discussion when they first announced it. It was kind of a big deal, and they talk about it at E3s and all this stuff. I have to admit, I kind of thought countdown till that gets canceled, right?
Oh, really?
It felt like a half-hearted attempt, or like a Me Too of, well, I guess we make a all media device now, not just a game machine. Let's make this. And I'm actually quite surprised that it is doing as well as it is doing, and it is becoming an actual legitimate alternative to, Slingbox, because I didn't think it was going to last, so I have to swallow my words there as well. But I'm glad that it is lasting, and it feels like it should be called PlayStation Vue does not actually need a PlayStation. It's because now it is this pan device service that I think transcends what it was initially introduced as, which is, hey, your video game machine can also be a media server.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they're as surprised as you are. It seems
Right.
like I could totally see, Sony is a historically very fractious environment where you have one leg doing something totally contrary to the other leg. I remember in the 1990s, there was one division making an MP3 player at Sony while Sony Music was suing MP3 manufacturers or player manufacturers. So, it's one of those things where maybe despite their best efforts, they ended up succeeding. I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm glad. I'm glad there's options, but as Tom seems to be saying, neither one is perfect. So, I'm hopeful that this continues to evolve and continues to be perfected, and that I will be able to just sort of cancel my cable at a certain point and feel confident that one of these services has everything I want.
Yeah, I jumped out of PlayStation Vue because it kept showing me things I couldn't do on my tablet. And it was buggy when I was trying to rewind. It crapped out in the middle of Walking Dead a few times. And Sling TV wasn't. But Sling TV is not perfect either, as Brian's had way more problems with it than I have, but I've also had problems with it. So they really haven't perfected either of these. And so here's the final question I would put to you about this. Are we debating whether MySpace or Friendster is going to win the social networking wars?
Yes.
And Facebook is still yet to come?
I think that is 100% true, and a great way to contextualize it, because, yes, I think right now people are scrapping over the bits of things, and somebody with a lot more clout is going to come in and kind of make a larger, more easily digestible service. And it seems like Sony could have done that, and maybe it still will, but from what I've seen so far, it doesn't feel like they're all in on this thing.
Well, okay, so this is difficult because your metaphor is very, very good in that it implies the fact that both Sling and PlayStation Vue are inherently incomplete. They are both inherently flawed in the promise of what they intend to deliver, and that they don't intend to deliver the entire spectrum of television channels and programs to anybody. But I'm trying to find a place in the metaphor to allow for the fact that neither of them have the sufficient infrastructure to even deliver on what they're promising. So it's like the Friendster versus MySpace thing would be a great discussion if either of them actually delivered what they said. And by the way, I'm going to loop in HBO Now on there because there has not been a single time I've watched a single half-hour programming on HBO Now that it hasn't hitched and hiccuped and had to rebuffer at some point. And you're talking to a guy with gigabit Ethernet who's tried on 4 different systems, and it just for whatever reason their delivery system is not 100%. So I don't know how to factor that into your metaphor.
Well, I use HBO Go. I have not tried HBO Now because HBO Go has been such a great experience. In fact, I watch Game of Thrones. I have a very big TiVo box, and as I said, I'm still subscribed to cable.
Yep.
And my TiVo is set to record Game of Thrones, but I don't watch the recorded version because the quality level of the HBO Go version is so much higher.
Yeah, HBO Go is a completely separate network from HBO Now. They have a different content delivery system, and I got to admit, like recently, HBO Now choked up, I think last week on Game of Thrones, so I ended up using Justin Robert Young's HBO Go account. And not only did it look great and run fantastically, but it's the little things that get me. For example, I always have the closed captioning on because with all the accents and stuff, I want to make sure I'm hearing and understanding what everyone's saying correctly. On HBO Now, it's a very crude, very 1998 white text on a black background, going up. Whereas on HBO Go, it's that much more evolved Netflix style where you could choose the fine font and it's nice yellow with a drop shadow on the background or whatever.
And it feels a little bit more like you're reading book 6.
Yeah, yes, which is all we all really want, right?
Right.
I have to differ with you. First of all, we don't use closed captioning like most people, so that's not a big consideration for us. HBO Now has given me so many fewer problems than HBO Go. HBO Go used to stutter and have problems launching all the time when we relied on it. And when we switched to HBO Now, it's maybe 1 or 2 problems that I can remember in the year that we've had it. So I don't know why that is. I'm not saying you're lying or you're wrong, Brian, but it is odd that there are these different experiences out there. And I think that tells a story about the larger issue here, which is, cable, for all of its flaws, has been around for 30, 40 years. And so it's pretty road tested. It'll have its outages for sure, but they know how to deal with them. Whereas the internet is Wild West. Like your problem could be HBO Now.
Yep.
It could be the AT&T interconnection agreements.
Could be my computer.
It could be your router. Like
Right.
it could be none of those. Like it's just weird.
It's your results may vary, whereas pretty much if you get a cable subscription, you know what you're getting. And that's really where we are still and why shows like yours are necessary, because you still feel a little bit adrift in a sea of options and uncertainty. And that's why you can't say, hey, mom and dad, cut your cable. We're still not there yet because it's all ad hoc and crazy, and you don't know exactly what to do. And shows like yours are great to help figure that out.
Keep in mind that, and this is a really good point. We got an email from somebody asking if he was a true cord cutter or not, gave all of his situation. And to me, there's only that one's still there. Actually, I'm going to hold off. We'll talk about it in the emails there. But in the meantime, the question is, how can people support a ongoing attempt in order to help you navigate this in bizarre, jungle of cordless cut shenanigans?
Yeah,
well done,
those cords
well
are coming to get you, people. And there's only one way to stop them. Go to patreon.com/cordkillers. And if you can spare $1, come on, $1? I mean, if you can't, we understand. But if you can, help us out. Help us keep spreading the word and sharing the information, even with cable subscribers, because we're just trying to make sure everybody can get what they want when they want. If that's cable, that's great. We just want to give as much information as possible. So patreon.com/cordkillers. Please.
Heck yes.
Shall we then move on to signals intelligence?
We shall indeed, sir.
Because when you're talking about Mr. Robot, you could get it from PlayStation Vue, or you could just buy the season, right? If you don't have to subscribe for the more expensive PlayStation Vue, maybe that is even a financial consideration, but that means downloading it. Also means getting it a day later. Dan Tate's chief operating officer at a company called Panthera that makes software that allows streaming video providers to let viewers download content for offline viewing, told Fortune, from industry sources, I know that Netflix is out in the market negotiating to get download rights in addition to streaming rights. Not sure that's how he said it, but that's what he said. He says he's been told by content providers, cable operators, and other streaming services that Netflix is in fact negotiating for these rights. You may realize that Amazon enabled an option to download in September, which I have used several times now to watch Justified on airplanes. During its last earnings call, Netflix CEO Reed Hastings said the company must keep an open mind about downloads. And that's a change, Brian. They used to say downloads. Nobody needs downloads with Netflix.
Well, okay, so It seems to me, and this is pure speculation on my part, that the reason he would say downloads, we don't need downloads, and now they're thinking, oh, we're keeping an open mind about stuff, is you might have said downloads back in the time when downloads were very, very popular. But as that gap narrows, as downloads become increasingly less and less of a necessity or popular or the first choice for most people, then you can afford to say like, yeah, maybe, I don't know, we'll do everything. And close that gap. Here's the part that it feels so weird for me to say. This is coming from somebody who is a reformed, full-on pirate. I used to download so much stuff, and I would hoard it. I remember my MP3.
Tell it, Ryan. Tell it.
My MP3 collection was so big, and I just wanted to hold it tight. And I was like, oh, look at every song I've ever loved is all right here. And then Spotify came along, and I had ubiquitous internet, and it's like, what's the point of holding on to any of this crap? I mean, is that not where we're headed in the world of video? And is that almost not where we are right now? If you're go ahead, Jeff.
Tom hit the nail on the head with one word: airplane.
Yep.
Because if anybody has been on a flight for more than 2 hours, and you don't, I mean, even if you wanted to stream, and you'll pay the ridiculous airplane Wi-Fi fee, which is like, come on, it's highway robbery. Even if you do that, you still can't stream because they block all of the streaming sites. So
that and the fact that the bandwidth is not sufficient, right?
Right, that too.
Well,
also, it's airway robbery.
But you can't even surf to YouTube. You can't even. I mean, it'll just block, at least on all the flights that I've been on. You can't even go to YouTube because it'll just say, no, sorry, you're not going to do that. And that is a major time when I want to consume media. And first of all, I want to say about this story, Panthera, I loved their second album. But no, I think that honestly the airplane and there are plenty of times, and airplane is a prime example, but there are other times when I am in a situation where I don't have internet and I need to pass the time, and I would love to be able to watch something that I have downloaded.
Think about where you are now. Think about how ubiquitous broadband was 10 years ago, and tell me, like, I mean, even on a plane, 10 years from now, you don't think 10 years from now we're going to have decent...
And let me add in that Netflix is actually pursuing deals with airlines to provide local caches of the Netflix library.
Smart.
So that you don't have to use the internet to actually get them.
That's brilliant, and I hadn't heard that, but bravo. I would pay another $1 a month to Netflix to make that happen. That's amazing. Okay, so we're 10 years away from that future is what you're saying, Brian?
No. I'm just picking 10 years out of the blue. So here's the thing. If you're going to form a new software company right now, there's a few things that you should assume. And they aren't true now, but they're going to become increasingly true at a geometric rate. You should assume that storage is essentially free because geometrically, storage is becoming incredibly free. You should assume processing power is going to be free because we're trending toward free for that. You should assume bandwidth is free because we're headed towards that right now. And again, considering where we were 10 years ago versus now, and yes, we all have those instances where we can't get our LTE to work or whatever. That will continue to happen, but it will happen less and less, and we are going to trend towards complete internet ubiquity. And yes, we're not there now. Yes, there's a lot of things that got to figure out. Somebody listening right now lives on a farm and is very, very upset that I'm talking this way, and they're shaking their fist at Time Warner. That's fine. But we are trending towards. We're living in a world where Google is hinting at the fact that they have new technologies that are going to make broadband internet available ubiquitously in a global cloud, basically. If that's the case, why are we downloading anything? Why would anybody download anything?
You're criticizing the business plan of making a company who's trying to fill this void because the void is shrinking.
Correct. It's equivalent to making a company that handles telegrams or telex or faxes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, there may be Netflix data that says, okay, we've saturated the market, and that this is very true in the United States. We've saturated the market of people who have the broadband available to use Netflix and keep Netflix. And we will continue to grow as that broadband expands. But that expansion is happening at this rate. If we added the ability to download for those people who live in farmland area or places with high bandwidth caps, we would suddenly grow faster than the broadband adoption rate. And so it makes it worthwhile. Does that change it?
I think that's accurate. Again, it seems like a closing window to me. I mean, I guess that's my point, is not that it's not relevant now, not that it won't be a good move in the short term or even the relatively long term, but it's certainly a move that is based on a supposition. Like, the next time we're going to want to download stuff is when people are going into orbit and when people are taking trips to Mars or to the moon or whatever.
Well, and it's maybe Netflix is thinking about that.
In which case, I guarantee you there'll be a Netflix server on that SpaceX ship to the moon.
Tell that to Mark Watley. How dare you want to take away his disco music?
Watley.
And if I may, I don't know that this is the way it works, but is there any potential that Netflix is doing this to lock others out of download rights? It's a streaming and download combo, right? They're saying we're going to have the ability to stream this, but we would also like the right to make it available for download. Does that prevent Amazon from getting a download and stream deal themselves?
That's interesting. I didn't think about it in terms of a exclusivity deal. I don't know. That's a new vector. I'd have to process that.
I'm just throwing it. I don't understand the proclivities or the intricacies rather of that either. It may not work that way. It may be that it's all or nothing, and the download thing is just a bonus if you get it or not. All right, let's move on to Gear Up, because our gear also applies to this topic.
We're doubling down. If you love downloaded media, you just buckle up, sir.
Now, I know for a fact that there was at least one of you out there going, well, I can do this all with Plex.
Do they say it that way?
You can do it even easier with Plex now. Western Digital's My Passport Wireless Pro is an external hard drive, USB and SD, and comes with a Plex server built on it. Well, it's installed on it. The device can create its own Wi-Fi network so that not only can you sync it with your mobile devices to make sure all your media is there, but you can also stream media to Plex apps, even if you don't have an internet connection. So in other words, you put all your movies and TV shows in the Plex server on the portable hard drive, you take it out into the middle of the Rocky Mountains camping, and you can stream your Plex videos. It's got a 10-hour battery life, though, so you're going to have to hook it up to the generator. 2 terabyte version costs you $230. 3 terabyte version costs you $250.
This is legitimately a wonderful, wonderful piece of hardware that is in every way the perfect solution to a problem I've not had in 5 years. Like, if there was a time machine that I could send this back to 2005 even, I'd be freaking the hell out. This would be the best thing ever, right?
Yeah, I was going to make that joke, but you made it for me. I was like, in the Brian Brushwood future, which is the present, we don't need that. But
exactly.
But it's cool, I guess.
I mean, I am attracted, just as somebody who loves to play with weird technologies, of the idea of a hard drive that creates its own Wi-Fi network. And this isn't the first one that's ever been released that can do that. But I think that's cool. And so the Plex server being pre-installed on it is the icing on the cake. And you could conceivably roll this yourself on any external hard drive if you had an external hard drive that had Wi-Fi capability, or if you wanted to hack that Wi-Fi capability into it. But having the whole package there for $230 with a 2 terabyte drive is kind of nifty.
Yeah, I definitely think so. There's definitely a dollar value to not having to, there's two things. There's the actual time to install it, and there's, more importantly, there's a dollar value to not having to deal with the uncertainty of being your own tech support. Because if you, I don't understand why you pay so much more for it. Just take 10 minutes to do it yourself. That's great if it works after 10 minutes. If it doesn't work, now you've obligated your time in order to be the tech support to fix this thing, in which case you have to start to evaluate, well, how much is my time worth? I'm 3 hours into trying to tech out this thing, and I don't understand why it doesn't work.
And here's the thing I'd like to hear. Anybody, I know we got tons of people out there who use and love Plex. Anybody who gets a hold of one of these and tries it out, let us know what you think. Cordkillers@gmail.com.
Yeah, please. Extra bonus points to anyone who uses it in the most remote situation we can.
Oh yeah, send us a
imagine.
pic of you amongst
Ice
the
fishing.
wolves. Yeah, ice fishing.
That'd be amazing.
All right, Brian. There's not only one way to support the show. There are 3 ways. One of them is to support me, and the other is to support you. What do you got going on?
Man, that's a really good question. This most recently, as you guys know, I got a little store called scamstuff.com where we try to come up with some really creative and interesting stuff. Most recently, we just brought in these ghost pepper gumballs. They look like atomic fireballs. You pop them in your mouth. They taste sweet on the outset. When you bite into them, there's a little bit of a cinnamoniness to it, but they're laced with ghost peppers, which has over 1 million Scoville heat units. It's one of the hottest peppers on the planet, and what's fascinating is we've done a bunch of ghost pepper stuff. Usually, ghost pepper anything is a endurance battle where it's like, can you handle the ghost pepper and so on. But this one was different in that it got really hot, but after 4 or 5 minutes, it faded down and it just became awesome gum. Now, granted, you were dripping with sweat at this point, but it was a fascinaking experience.
So it's like other gum. It loses its flavor, but in this case, that's a feature.
Yes, exactly. Not a bug. Exactly. No. It was there's Bryce freaking out, and pretty soon Roberto's gonna bolt the hell out of the picture. Wait, 3, 2, 1, and he's gone. It was a lot of fun having these. If you go over to scamstuff.com, you can pick them up for yourself.
All right, let's move on to the front lines of the fight. For news. CBS has moved Julie McNamara from the drama development role she has at CBS TV to become the executive vice president of original content at CBS All Access. She was already overseeing the new Star Trek and the Good Wife spinoff that are headed to All Access next year. So I guess it makes sense to just put her on that full time. It also implies that CBS is committed to bringing bunches of original content directly to the internet.
Yeah, I'm really surprised to see the maneuvering that indicates. I guess, how can I put this? This is a very, very smart move, which is why I thought it was the last move CBS would make. Is that crass to say?
Well, Jeff and I have both worked for CBS before, so we're not.
I currently work for CBS.
Right.
that's
So
right,
anyway,
and you are actually currently.
By the way,
still
I'm
working
not
for
talking about
Interactive.
CBS specifically. What I'm saying is replace CBS with a blank that means entrenched broadcast blue
traditional.
chip standard. Right. I mean, it's like the old guard very rarely makes these kinds of daring maneuvers to position themselves well in a new market, and I'm glad to see that.
Well, and I feel like what CBS is doing here is treating CBS All Access like another channel. The way like NBC has, we have Bravo and we have, USA Network and that. So we need to have heads of content for that. CBS is just saying, hey, CBS All Access is just another channel.
Yep.
They get syndication rights to a bunch of our stuff from CBS On Air, sure. But we also need to have a good originals strategy for that. So bring in somebody who knows content. It's not very different from what YouTube did, bringing Suzanne Daniels over from the CW.
Which is exactly the right strategy, in my opinion, because what I think where these kinds of initiatives have failed in the past is when the Suits said, hey, those kids love watching stuff on the internet. We got to put our stuff on the internet. No, it has the kids don't care where they get the stuff. It's about the stuff. Right. If you treat it like another channel and make good stuff on that channel, that's where they'll watch that thing. It's about the stuff, and put good stuff in good places that it's easy accessible to everybody. People will watch that good stuff.
Speaking of which, Viacom launched BET Play for $3.99 a month. It'll offer current episodes from 16 shows and a live stream of BET Soul. It's available for iOS and Android in 100 countries, though not in the U.S. I somehow missed those last few words the first time I read this. That's rather surprising to me. What do you suppose the justification for not having it in the U.S. is?
I'm guessing it's that they didn't want to risk the deals with the cable companies. The same reason HBO took forever to finally give you a direct offering is they had to maneuver themselves into position with the cable companies. HBO is a much stronger leverage position than BET is, which is why they're only charging $3.99 here as well. So they're saying, well, you know what? We're going to get there. We might as well launch it in every country we can, and that way we have it ready to go when it's time to move into the US. I also wonder if there's a little bit of a wink and a nudge, like we know people know how to use VPNs.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about that. Maybe from a practical standpoint, that does make sense. Huh.
That's interesting. I would bet you would get no one ever to admit that.
Not a BET, hell no. Variety reports that BitTorrent may launch BitTorrent News, a TV news network for BitTorrent Live, their P2P live video service. Company is listing an opening for a news director to build out a team of journalists with the hope of being ready to cover the U.S. presidential election this fall. The network will focus on breaking news, including political campaigns, sporting events, tech and cultural events, but does not plan to do 24/7 coverage.
Man, I wish I had seen more of the BitTorrent content so I had a better picture of what this looks like. I love the fact that they're opening up another opportunity for a disruptive news influence, you know, along the lines of a Vice or the Young Turks or whatever. I'd be real curious to know what kind of backing and support and how committed they are in the long term to this.
I'll give you a snapshot into the BitTorrent news. This just in, Big Weed 420 is downloading porn.
That's the BitTorrent protocol, Jeff.
Oh,
this
sorry,
is
sorry.
BitTorrent, the company,
Oh,
providing
confused. I'm
a
so
streaming service for people to go live on the internet. It's a common mistake.
Forgive me. Sorry. about that.
Although, I'm very curious to watch the BitTorrent protocol news as well, now that you mention it.
Sandvine released their report on primetime internet usage in North America. Not surprisingly, Netflix and YouTube retain the top two spots for downstream activity, but Amazon Video more than doubled their percentage of traffic up to 4.26%, surpassing both iTunes, Hulu, and Facebook to take the number 3 spot. And Nielsen's latest numbers estimate subscription video on demand services like Netflix and Friends are now in half U.S. households, up from 52% last year. Hold on, walk me through that, Tom. Up from 52% last year, I guess.
Yeah.
Even
so,
more.
So there's a typo.
Okay.
Which makes that does not make sense at all.
Up to
how's that?
Up to up from 42% last year. DVRs have held steady at 49 to 50%. It's the first time the two categories have been equal. Also, I apologize. I should have caught the typo and asked you about that before the show.
No worries. Yeah. So the big news here isn't so much the rise as it is the passing of 50%, right? But that now means most households have what they call an SVOD, whether it's probably Netflix in most cases, but it could be Hulu, could be Amazon, as we're seeing from the Sandvine report. Amazon is totally surging.
Sure, dude. Think about it this way. If they don't have the ability to watch video on demand, they are in the minority. They are now the less than the majority.
Yeah. And it's past DVR usage. More people have a Netflix than a DVR. Go ahead, Jeff. Sorry
to interrupt you guys, but late-breaking BitTorrent news, Big Weed 420 is now searching for celebrity nudes.
Do you think he misspelled news or no, you're right.
BitTorrent's announcing their own nudes division.
It's nudes director. I'm sorry. There was a typo. Amazon has also caught up with Netflix and Vudu by adding support for Dolby Vision HDR content. Dolby Vision and HDR10 are the two main standards for HDR. And we always remind you, HDR is the 4K version that has better color contrast versus just the higher resolution.
Yeah, this is one of those moments I'd like to kind of throw it out to our mechanical expertise out there. Are any engineers out there who want to explain to us the difference from a functional basis technologically between Dolby Vision and the HDR10? That'd be really interesting to know.
It's cool that this is happening because HDR is really breathtaking when you see it, and I wanted to catch on and have a solid standard so that we get more content.
Well, and I mentioned before on the show, a friend of mine works in the industry, and he went to one of the demos for HDR, and according to the other suits that were around him, one of the things they said was like, yeah, I can't sell 4K because I can't explain why it's better than, 1080p, but I can sell this. This is fundamentally different. This definitely pops in a way that the other one doesn't.
It's gorgeous. At CES this year, just seeing a regular, a 4K next to HDR 4K, it's like, bam! It's beautiful, beautiful.
That's awesome. Android TV's universal search gets a little more universal. In a Twitter post, the Android team announced that Netflix would be included in search results, although no update has been rolled out to devices yet. This brings Android TV up to parity with rivals Roku and Apple TV, who already have Netflix in their search. That's nothing but good news.
Roku released a Windows 10 version of its remote app with Cortana support aimed at laptops and tablets. No word on an upgrade to the phone app, but now you can use your laptop to control your Roku.
Oh, yeah.
Well, let's see what's under surveillance.
I mean, technically, wouldn't it already be under surveillance? Do we need to see it if it's under surveillance?
Well, somebody's got to watch it, right? Hey, Mr. Robot's second season just got longer. It'll now, not just, it's getting longer. It'll now have 12 episodes instead of 10. The new season kicks off July 13th with a 2-episode premiere. They're also doing a post-show discussion, not called Talking Robot, called Hacking Robot. And Mr. Robot Season 1 is on Amazon Prime now if you want to catch up on Season 1.
I wonder if they felt like, I don't know if Hacking Robot felt like more on brand to call it, or if they were intentionally staying away from the talking blank format.
Probably,
that
yeah.
AMC
They didn't want
has.
AMC
Well, I think
on their butts.
everybody would tune in hoping to see a talking robot. I know I would.
Did you guys watch this week's episode of Mr.
They could have
Robot?
saved money on the hosts.
That would be so great. I mean, I'm like, there's a show called Talking Robot. Oh wait, what is this? Oh,
I was talking about some other show. Boo.
it's just Chris Hardwick. This is stupid.
Did you believe when he used DOS in Scene 5? Heroes and Icons is a television network you've never heard of. It's an offshoot of MeTV, which is another television network you probably haven't heard of. It's usually found as a sub-channel on digital broadcasts. So only us cord cutters with the over-the-air antennas have ever watched either of these channels. But Heroes and Icons is going to air episodes from all 5 series of Star Trek starting July 24th.
That's a lot of Star Trek.
Just turn it on and watch Star Trek. For free.
Just in any order, it's just catch as catch can, whichever.
I wonder if they're going to go in like
season.
chronological order or what. Couldn't find that out. And YouTube announced its new original series at VidCon. Step Up is a series based on the movie. There have been 5 of those movies, starring the first one starred Channing Tatum and Jenna Dewan, and they are both producers on the YouTube series. Scare PewDiePie and Comedy Foursome got renewed for a 2nd season, and other new shows include Rhett and Link's Buddy System, a tour documentary from comedians Dan Howell and Phil Lester, and a vlogumentary produced by Morgan Spurlock about YouTube creators.
Oh, okay. Look, I love everything about everything you just said, except for the word vlogumentary. Can we just agree that's not a great word? Can we just call it what it's a documentary that happens to be on the internet?
It's talking about vloggers, and it's a documentary, Brian. It's perfect.
Well, stop vlogging myself over this, then. I don't know.
Jeff, what have you been watching? Have you seen any good vlogumentaries lately?
Oh man, I'm so behind on my vlogumentaries. Yeah, no. Are you legitimately asking me what I'm watching?
Yeah.
Because I did not fill that in, and I apologize.
No, I was going to fill it in as you talked.
I have been in love with Horace and Pete. Did you guys watch Horace and Pete?
No, but you know what?
Bryce watched some of those, right?
I watched
a friend of mine
bit
hooked
of
me
one.
up with the first episode too, and I still haven't watched it.
Guys, watch Horace and Pete.
All right.
It is not a pleasant experience. It is a harrowing experience.
Selling it, man. You're
It
killing
is one of the most profound, thoughtful, groundbreaking, original things I have ever seen in any medium. I think it's a work of genius, honestly. I know I'm given to hyperbole, but truly, I cried every single episode. And not because it's super sad, although it is super sad, mostly because it's like getting a concentrated injection of truth. It's just like concentrated truth. And he covers so many topics. He covers mental health. He covers the transgender debate in a way that's so brilliant and so on point and so nuanced and discussing some, kind of both sides even-handedly, and puts himself sort of in the center of that. I want everyone to watch it so I can reference it because it's constantly stayed with me. And there are breakout episodes that are some of the most incredible television, some of the most incredible performances. I said Laurie Metcalf in episode 3. Episode 3 is a 45-minute monologue from Laurie Metcalf. And I think they need to invent a new award because it transcends Emmy. Like, Emmy is not a big enough award to give her for what she does in this show. It is the most spectacular piece of acting I have ever seen. And that's saying something. I mean, it is truly deserves to be watched by all humans.
So did you like it?
But also it falls right into your rubric, right? Because this is a completely new way to deliver a television show. He did it directly through his website. I understand that he's in negotiations with Netflix to put it on Netflix, but this is a direct, creator to audience form of delivery, and he completely financed it himself. And most people didn't watch it, and he didn't tell anybody he was doing it. He just dropped it Beyonce style on the world, and it has the most incredible cast: Steve Buscemi,
Alan Alda,
Edie Falco, Alan Alda. Right? It's incredible.
So one of the things I noticed that happened after we had a child is all of a sudden it's like there's a back door to my heart and I get welled up with tears. It's so easy. It's the cheapest pop. There are certain back doors to my tear ducts that I did not realize were possible. And if you already are tearing up on every single episode of this, I cannot imagine what you're going to be like once you're a dad. You're going to be crying nonstop. You're going to get live on Cordkillers going losing it.
Yeah, we had the baby shower a couple weeks ago, and the theme of the baby shower was everybody bring their favorite children's book. And so I've been reading through a couple of the children's books, and I'm like, how am I supposed to not cry every time I read my kid to sleep? Like, how does that happen?
Yeah, no, yeah.
They're all the most beautifully little poetic moments of how much I love you and how special Snowflake you are, and I'm just like, it's so true.
By the way, spoiler alert, you're going to be bubbling. Your kids doesn't care. You're like, that's a pretty rabbit. And you're like, no, you don't understand. This
Jeff, anything else you've been watching before we go to Brian's father-daughter viewing experience?
There's lots of stuff. Game of Thrones, obviously, we'll be talking about later. We're watching through season 2 of Bloodline. Did you guys watch season 1 of Bloodline?
No,
I've heard it's great though.
Oh, it's awesome!
Yes,
oh,
it's excited
awesome.
For season 2.
Season 2 is equally awesome and does everything you would want from a sequel, a second season, which is nothing is forgotten. Everything is still completely relevant, and they don't, stuff that was a big deal remains a big deal and is carried forward. It's awesome.
Awesome.
All right, Brian, tell us about watching Finding Dory.
Dude, oh shoot, I guess you haven't watched it, so we can't do a full spoiler in time. In speaking in generalities, I liked it a lot. It was a good time. Holy cow, is it a much sillier movie than the first one? And also, to anybody who watched Finding Dory, this is not a spoiler, and I don't know how many people would be upset about it, but the movie is about overcoming a handicap and being in that Dory, has a short-term memory deficiency. For being a movie that's about overcoming a handicap, seems like there's an awful lot of the movie dedicated to laughing at other creatures with other kinds of handicaps. Like,
I agree. It's problematic.
I mean, was it a little bit like, wait, they're just teasing and we're all laughing because they're teasing that? I don't know how I feel about that.
It's weird, and unfortunately, it is genuinely funny. Those moments. I thought
that's
that stuff
the
was
worst
pretty
part.
funny.
Is like Gerald does look like a dumb goober on a rock.
Yeah, and the way that hearing those actors in that way, it's really funny. But it's like, oh wait, no, the whole point of this movie is to realize that if you're mentally challenged, you have a special need, you can transcend that and have it's like.
But then they spend a third of the movie just making fun of people with difficult challenges, like the pigeon, Gerald,
Yeah.
and oh my gosh, wow, yeah. So anyway,
100%. I agree 100%.
it was
Yeah.
crazy.
All right, Finding Dory, offensive. What else have you been watching?
Game of Thrones we'll talk about. Oh man, I'm sorry guys. I'm so sorry. The last episode of season 2 of Daredevil was absolutely ridiculous from beginning to end. From the moment that it opens with a bunch of ninjas in a school bus running around, sometimes they got swords.
All right. Save it for spoiler time.
All right. It's ridiculous. Also, documentary now is amazing. So good. I thought it would be too high-minded and wouldn't be funny and enjoyable, but it was really great. And
Is it a vlogumentary though?
it's no documentary.
Then I don't
now.
understand.
Got it.
All right, we'll talk all about this in spoiler time.
Of the things that we won't talk about in spoiler in time, because I've also Game of Thrones preacher. Silicon Valley had its season finale yesterday as well. I thought it was a very strong season and enjoyed it. And Eileen and I have finally been catching up on Parks and Rec, which we had never watched. Yeah,
It's
it's so good.
I got halfway through the first season, and like you talked about last week, it just felt very, like, oh, it's Office 2.0. But from what I hear, it really came into its own.
Oh yeah, no, it
Yes.
grows into its own thing and then becomes really fun.
They
Do
literally
not-
retooled the show after season 1.
Season 1 is not even the show.
Yeah.
It becomes these wonderful characters that you just want to hang out with. I loved watching Parks and Rec while I ate food. It was like I was just hanging out with fun people eating food. It was great. I would have lunch or dinner, throw on an episode of Parks and Rec. It was perfect.
It was weird when you started taking them out to dinner.
Oh yeah, but you know what? They picked up the check sometimes, so it was worth it.
Hey, you can't argue with that, right?
I want to say one more thing that I saw that just as a
Oh,
PSA
sure.
for people, don't go see Independence Day
Oh
Resurgence.
no!
I had to do it because of my job on the Slash Filmcast.
Well, I mean,
You
yeah.
don't have to do it. Don't go see it. It's terrible.
Wait, and when you say terrible, you mean, and I'm using air quotes here, worse than the original Independence Day?
Yes, an order of magnitude worse. And I didn't like the first Independence
Oh
Day.
my god!
Yeah, and it's and the bad thing is I said, oh, it's so bad on Twitter, and people are like, but is it like fun bad? Is it like so bad it's good? No, it is not. It is bad.
There was a friend of mine who saw a certain Las Vegas magician show, and I asked this. He's like, "No, it's bad. It's bad." And I was like, "Oh, but maybe I'll go because it sounds like fun." He's like, "No, it's like hanging upside down over a mountain of human waste for an hour. You will be sad when you leave."
Was it like funny human ways?
No,
Like
I had
we're
a
all laughing
headache
at the
when it
human
was
way?
over. It was awful.
That bears out exactly what Eileen and I did, which is like, oh, maybe we should see Independence Day. Ooh, 33% on Rotten Tomatoes. Well, wait a minute. Pacific Rim had really bad, and we enjoyed that. What's the viewer? Ooh, the viewer thing is just as bad. Yeah. All right. This is the last nail in that coffin for me. Thank you, Jeff Cannata, for saving me. Bryce, what have you been on the lookout for?
Hey, this week we had a new bit of content come out onto streaming services, and you guys have heard us talk about it a lot. It is Rick and Morty, the Adult Swim cartoon from Justin Roiland and Dan Harmon. Season 2 just came on Hulu, so that puts 21 half hours on Hulu exclusively, I believe. And you've heard us talk about it so much on the show. Y'all even did spoiler time for all of season 2. It's about Morty, a young kid, and his grandfather Rick, who is a super genius scientist who they go all across the universe and go visit strange planets and lands and get into all sorts of scrapes. And it's really smart and it's really witty, and it doesn't it's not so full of itself that it like tries to impress you with how smart and funny it is. And it really gets emotional at times. It runs the gamut of comedy and drama, but also it has a character named Mr. Poopy Butthole. So take that for how you will. But I mean, I'm sure everybody here has nothing but great things to say about Rick and Morty.
Not me. I've never heard of it.
I'm embarrassed as to how many episodes I watched of that before I realized Rick and Morty was Doc and Marty.
What?
Oh yeah, that's right.
I was very embarrassed. I mean, obviously I saw the reference, but I didn't make the phonetic thing
connection,
happen in
yeah.
my head.
Yeah, well,
Love
originally
it, though.
the shorts were called Doc and Mahti, Mahti, Doc and Mahti, but then they changed it to Rick and Morty.
Let me ask you guys this question: better show, Rick and Morty or BoJack Horseman?
Dude, Rick and Morty by
Morty.
by 27
Really?
landslides.
It's not easy. It's not an easy
You could
decision.
combine.
BoJack is better as a drama.
BoJack is brilliant.
I
love
don't
it.
even
It
know
is
that
a more
I agree with
substantive
that.
story. I will
Also
give you
true.
that. I would call it closer than Brian does, but Rick and Morty's just more enjoyable.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
that's
they're
all
trying to
side.
tell two different types of stories. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but that's what's fun about comparing them.
Right.
We're trying to tell the same story.
So which is better, Jeff? Stripes or Gone with the Wind?
Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
All
I
right.
guess.
No,
I see what
think
you're
they're
saying,
closer
but
than that.
I don't know.
They're pretty much Stripes and Gone with the Wind are pretty much the same story. So
I'll take Stripes.
So
would too, bro.
that's Rick and Morty. 2 seasons are now on Hulu. Check it out. Everybody loves it. Don't miss
Yay.
out.
If you got something we should be on the lookout for, email us cordkillers@gmail.com. Let's get to those dispatches from the front now. Yassine has the email that Brian was referring to earlier. Says, look, I listened to all episodes of Cordkillers without exception. I skip some episodes of spoiler in time when it reminds me too much of how many shows you talk about we don't get in Belgium. I watch TV exclusively on demand through my Apple TV, mainly Netflix and YouTube. But here's the rub. I actually have a cable subscription. And it is because it costs me less to have the bundled triple play than just the same speed internet alone. My cable box isn't on. There's no HDMI linking it to the TV. My question to you, Tom and Brian, do you officially grant me the right to call myself a cord killer?
Here's what I say. If you were asking about, are you a cord cutter? No, because you still have cable. But are you a cord killer? There's only 3 questions you got to ask. Are you watching what you want, when you want, on whatever damn device you please? Then yes, you are a cord killer, and we support you. That goes for you too, Jeff Cannata.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. I think he's more of a cord killer than I have. But I have a similar reason, right? It's because I bundle my internet with it, and it all works out well for me.
Oh, no. Well, and in fact, we've talked about on the show for a while, in a desperate, I'll use air quotes when I say desperate, in a desperate bid to retain core cable numbers, oftentimes it's cheaper. Like, essentially, they're giving you cable for free and offering you, essentially paying you to keep cable around because they need to keep those numbers around.
Yes, or i.e. artificially inflating the internet cost and the internet monopoly because I have one option for internet.
Jeffrey Cannata, I never pegged you for a cynic. What is this? What's going on here?
I mean, I would love to have. I literally can't get any other service for internet that gives me the speeds that Time Warner does. So guess what? I'm with Time Warner.
Sure.
You gotta read us Zach's email there, Brian?
Yeah, sorry. You caught me tuned out. Zach says, I'm an Amazon Prime member and occasionally use the Amazon Instant Video app on my Roku 3. However, the app UI experience is terrible. Is it worth buying the Fire TV stick if I just want better internet instant video experience? Having had the Fire TV stick and the new Fire TV, I would say do not buy the Fire TV stick. I'm sorry. It's a little bit underpowered. More importantly, it has a hard time connecting over Wi-Fi, and there were too many drops. It got too frustrating. I gave up on it. But the Amazon Fire TV, especially the I think I got the arcade edition or whatever one comes with the gaming pad, has been fantastic. The kids know how to use it. I know how to use it. It's in the ecosystem that we like. I highly recommend spending the extra money to get the better hardware.
Jackie wrote in and said, excuse me if this is old news, but I've discovered an easy way to search specific genres on Netflix by using Netflix genre codes. Simply sign into Netflix and change the URL to netflix.com/browse/genre/code number. There's a site that lists all the genre codes, and I've created a bit.ly for my fellow cord killers at bit.ly/Netflix genres.
All caps.
I know we've mentioned that this is possible before, but this is the most compact way to do it I think we've ever seen, Brian.
Yeah, no, I knew we had talked about it, but I did enjoy the fact that it's all right out there. And by the way, it's worth perusing this just to discover how precise the genres are.
There's a genre code for starring Steve Railsback.
Or how about scary satires? 511 movies that are scary satires. Suspenseful movies on Blu-ray based on books. Suspenseful movies starring Roy Scheider. 124 of them.
Wow.
That's amazing. All right, Sean writes us, hello, gentlemen. As a cord never in the 40 to 50 age group, I would like to provide some initial feedback on my Tableau 4 tuner experience. All caps, it runs hot. So hot, in fact, that it locks up and requires the unit to be unplugged for a cooldown. As for my setup, I use the ATV4 for the interface, the ATV app. I assume he's saying Apple TV, right?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, the Apple.
I assume that's what he
the
meant.
ATV
All-terrain vehicle is what I'm reading.
the ATV app is what I consider still in beta. The app does provide a nice guide, but changing channels is excruciatingly slow. My previous setup was a Silicon Dust HD Home Run Connect with Channels ATV4 app, while the Home Run Connect via the Channels app didn't provide the DVR experience I was looking for. It lacked a traditional guide. It does not have cooling and channel changing issues I am experiencing with the Tableau. I'm going to go back to HD Home Run / Channels app for live viewing and use the Hot Plate Tableau for burritos and watching recorded over-the-air television. I hope this helps other viewers. In all defense of the Tableau, it may be just a bad unit, or maybe they just run hot. I don't know.
Yeah, or maybe you should look at it as a positive. Like, just think of all the breakfasts you can cook.
So many burritos.
You're
So
using
many
your Tableau.
burritos.
Well, that is it for this episode of Cordkillers. Jeff Cannata, a pleasure, my friend. Thank you for being with us.
Absolutely my pleasure, guys. Keep on doing great things.
Now, I'm going to let you promote your own stuff here in a second, but I have to give in a plug for what I think is one of the best shows in podcasting. We Have Concerns. If you folks have not listened to it, they even have a page just for new listeners to get like a good sampling of what that show is about.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah, it's a great place to start. Also, we just started putting up a video version of the show on our YouTube channel, I guess you would call it. And I think that's youtube.com/We Have Concerns, if I'm not wrong. We just started it, so I'm not 100% sure. But there's only one episode up so far. But it's a really funny one. So if you want a jumping on point, I think that's a great one to jump on with.
Right on.
So go check that out. Anything else you want to mention, Jeff?
Yeah, I do the Slash Filmcast. So if you want to hear me talk about more stuff that I've been watching and talk with really knowledgeable fellas, Devendra Hardawar and Dave Chen on the Slash Filmcast, that's at slashfilmcast.com. I also do a video game show called DLC. You can find that at 5by5.tv/DLC.
Our website is cordkillers.com. Our email address, as we mentioned, is cordkillers@gmail.com. And we're live on diamondclub.tv Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Not Diamond Group, diamondclub.tv. We'll see you next time.
Hey guys, Tom and Brian here. We just wanted to say thank you to all of our $5 patrons who keep us loud, live, and independent. You guys make Cordkillers the production that it is.
Your name appears in the video credits and appears in our hearts. And if you'd like to become one of them or see who they are, you can go to patreon.com/cordkillers.
You'll need to do more than just go there, though. You'll have to sign up and, pledge an amount. But
Unless you just want to see who they are.
Well, I mean, you could gawk. That's a little creepy, isn't it?
If you want to be a gawker,
Let's go.
it's up to you.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.